Shabbat Shalom. Welcome. Good to see everyone here. Braved the way through the couple of raindrops out there and made it here. Glad you're here. And welcome to those who are joining us on live stream as well. Glad to have you with us virtually. We are going to continue with lighting of Shabbat candles, page 2. And I'd like to invite Claudia Blackburn to lead us in the lighting and blessing. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. We'll continue on page 9. We'll read responsive paragraphs. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. Page 12, continue with Lechu Neranana, Psalm 95.
Lechu Neranana l'Adonai, Nariya Litzur Yishenu, Nekadma Fanav Betodah, Bismirot Nariya Lo.
Next page, next psalm, page 13, Psalm 96, Shiru l'Adonai. And page 17 in the middle, the last 3 lines in Hebrew continue the last last section here of Psalm 99, Romamu. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu
HaKodsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Ramemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Ramemu. Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtakavu leHaKodsho. Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtakavu leHaKodsho.
Pages 20 and 21 continue with Lecha Dodi, verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Please rise during the last verse, as always, facing the doorway to the sanctuary, symbolically to greet the Shabbat bride. Those watching on live stream, feel free to do the same in the room you're in.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zochor b'dibur echad ishmi'anu el ha'meichad Adonai echad hu shemo echad shemo tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha ki imekor ha'biracha merosh mikadam nesucha sof ma'aseh v'machshavat tchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, kiva orech, kumi ori, uri, shir daberi, kvod Adonai, alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret balaga, v'simcha u'v'tzola toch emune am segula. Boi chala, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela.
Page 22, continue with Psalm 92, Mizmor Shir.
Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Lehagid baboker chastecha, ve'emunatcha baleilot. Alei asor va'alei navel, alei higayon bechinot. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידך ארנה. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
And Chatzi Kaddish is on page 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
Amen.
ויעמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו.
Amen.
יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקדושה.
Richu.
לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמה ויאמרו.
Amen. Please rise, page 28 for Baruch.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai HaMavorach Leolam Vaed. Please be seated. Middle of page 30. Please join with me if you would like. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Arabim. Continue with singing of Ahavat Olam, page 32.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
And let's read together at the top of page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there, except by joining hands, marching together. Micha Mocha is found on page 40.
Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha Mocha neder b'kodesh, Norah tehilo rosefele, Norah tehilo rosefele, Norah tehilo rosefele, rosefele. Machotecha ra'uvadecha, Mokeh hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam. Ze'elianu ve'ameru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Ze'elianu ve'ameru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'na'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
And if you recognize that tune, it's the tune of Utzu Etza, which is sung at various times, but especially one of the main times is approaching this holiday of Purim, which we will celebrate this weekend. And we are going to sing that, the actual song, as a closing song, so you'll recognize the tune later as well. We're going to continue now on page 43. At the top, let's read together. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, apores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. And we'll continue on page 44 with V'shamru, as we remember Shabbat as the sign of the eternal covenant between God and the Jewish people.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני, את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ויום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
And page 46 and the following pages in Hebrew, please rise for tefillah.
Adonai sefati tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh hakol, V'zocher chastei avot ve'imahot, U'mevii geula livnei bneihem, Le'man shemo be'ahava, Melech ozer Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, V'chayei hakol atah Rav le'hoshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'rofeh cholim, U'matir asurim, U'mekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, U'midom elach, Melech memit u'mechayeh, U'matzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, ritzei v'imnuchateinu, Kachenu b'mitzvotecha, v'tin chelkeinu v'toratecha, Saveinu metuvecha, v'samcheinu v'shuatecha, v'taher libeinu, v'taher libeinu, v'taher libeinu le'ovdecha bemet, v'taher libeinu, v'taher libeinu, v'taher libeinu le'ovdecha bemet. Yalai, yalalai, 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 la 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 la, yala la la la, yala la la la. V'taher libeinu, v'taher libeinu, v'taher libeinu le'ovdecha bemet. V'anchileinu Adonai Eloheinu, v'avar ratzon Shabbat kodshecha, V'anuchu v'yisrael mekadesh shemecha baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
Please be seated. Page 55. We'll read together. Disturb us, Adonai, ruffle us from our complacency, make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans. Shock us, Adonai. Deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears. Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Page 59. We'll read at the top together. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, atov shimcha, ulecha na'eh lehodot. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. We'll continue with prayer for peace, Shalom Rav, at the top of page 60.
Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon, lecho hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon, lecho hashalom. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
I'll take a moment now for individual silent prayer and reflection.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
A prayer of healing for loved ones, Mishaberach Avotenu, Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'Imotenu, Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah, V'yivarech v'yirapeh et kol cholei Yisrael v'et kol cholei Adam. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all those who are in need of healing. On this Shabbat, we think especially of Madeline Ann Cohen, Bobby Abels, Britt Knox, Carol Frank, Grace Boyd, David Gutman, Richard Goddard, Judy Fleet, Theodosia O'Dowd, Stephen Krause, David Fenton, Tina Linnell DiGregorio, Naomi Harris, Alan Webb, Byron Block, Martin Arnold, Marjorie Gilberg, Amy Jackson, Diana Fernandez, David Greenberg, David Priceman, Selma Szymanski, Faye Barnett. We also think of those who have been injured physically and emotionally since and during and since the terrorist attacks on Israel on October 7th. We think of people in both Israel and Gaza who are suffering physically and emotionally. We think especially of those still held hostage, their families and friends, those who have been released from captivity but who are still recovering from physical and emotional wounds. If anyone has a name or names of someone who is sick or injured in need of healing, please feel free to mention the name as I look in your direction, and those watching on live stream, feel free to mention names at this time as well. V'tishlach lahem refuah shlema, refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf b'nomar. Amen. May God grant all of them, those whose names we have read, the names we have mentioned, those in our own hearts and minds, a complete and speedy healing, a healing of body and a healing of spirit. And we say, Amen. Page 253 in the middle, we'll join together in a song, a prayer of healing for loved ones, Mishaberach.
Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We'll continue with prayer for Israel, Avinu Shebashamayim, page 259.
Avinu, Avinu, Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Gola. Avinu, Avinu, Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'Gola. Barech, barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Mechat Geulatenu, Hagen Allah בשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. אבינו, אבינו, שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו.
So some of you may have heard me tell this story before. Before I chose a career as a lifelong Hebrew school attendee, I was, of course, an actual student myself. And one weekday afternoon during those years, the head of the Hebrew department paid a visit to our class early on in the lesson. And she taught us a few Hebrew words, and then, as a responsible educator, told us to make sure to forget them. It was a bit out of the ordinary, but there was a method to her madness. As one might imagine, when she returned at the end of the class, we had not only failed to forget the words, but we had a distinctly clear memory of them. Perhaps she had been studying the Torah portion, the additional Torah portion that we read this week. In it, Moses instructs the Israelites completely to block out the memory of the Amalekites for all time. Ironically, however, the small passage is the end of the portion that it appears in the weekly cycle and that we add to our weekly cycle today, begins with the word zachor, an imperative that means remember. And it ends with the equally powerful command, lo tishkach, do not forget. According to the Torah and the head of the Hebrew department, remembering to forget is not forgetting at all, but rather the exact opposite. So exactly what is it that we are supposed to remember, and why? What is the significance of Amalek and the Amalekites? Though no other sources relating to this people have ever been found, according to the Bible, Amalek was the name of a nomadic tribe or group of tribes located in the Sinai Peninsula and the southern Negev. Already mentioned as existing centuries earlier in Abraham's time, they are referred to as a leading nation, ranging from Arabia to Egypt. The Amalekites were never mentioned as having been on friendly terms with Israel, and are noted only in terms of warfare. Engaging in battle after battle in a topsy-turvy fashion for centuries, they were finally said to have been totally defeated by King Hezekiah in the 7th century BCE. Now we know, of course, that Israel, unfortunately, has had many enemies over the centuries. So why then are the Amalekites clearly singled out and remembered as the arch enemy? Have they become the prototype simply because they were the first to attack Israel after they left Egypt? After all, when this episode is first mentioned in Exodus chapter 17, soon after the Israelites had left Egypt, nothing unusual is reported. The text simply states, "Then came Amalek and fought with Israel." This week's added portion, however, from Deuteronomy, suddenly speaks of the Amalekites being most cruel and vicious. They attack not only without provocation, but also from behind, where the slower, weaker people would be. And so we are still left with the question of why. Nowhere else in the Bible is there such an outright condemnation of an entire people. And the apparent reason for this is another statement from the portion we add today made about Amalek, namely that Amalek did not fear God. Again, this is the only time such a statement is made in the Bible when speaking of an entire people. When fear of God is mentioned elsewhere, referring to individuals or smaller groups, it is always linked to their treatment of the weak and the stranger. And this seems to be the case here as well. Amalek's persecution of the Israelites came out of not fearing God, out of not respecting other, at times weaker people. This is why the injunction against Amalek is so severe. The 11th century Rabbi Rashi gives a wonderful analogy. He compares Israel to a bath of scalding hot water. The Amalekites were foolish enough to jump in. Though they suffered the consequences, they nonetheless cooled the water for others. Israel had been admired and respected by other nations after coming out of Egypt. The world had witnessed the triumph of right over might, a valuable lesson. This change in emphasis from the Exodus passage to the one in Deuteronomy raised several questions which remain unanswered. The most important of which is, where did the injunction to obliterate an entire people come from? And how can one justify such a command, whatever members of this people have done? For this is what we are instructed to do with the Amalekites, not simply mentally, but physically as well. Now, this kind of language should set off warning signals in the minds of all ethical people, and particularly of Jews in our time. I wish that I could honestly state that the biblical intent is simply to stress strong negative feeling toward Amalek. In the Talmud, for example, many centuries later, rabbis would often call for the death of lawbreakers, and yet their record of capital punishment over the centuries shows a different approach. Rarely was a person actually put to death in the rabbinic court. Rather, the rabbis simply were emphasizing the serious nature of certain crimes. Biblical times, however, apparently were different. King Saul, for example, who lived about 1,000 years BCE, was commanded, according to the biblical story, to kill the Amalekite king. And though defeating the Amalekites and capturing their king, however, Saul did not kill him, and as a result was severely punished for disregarding what was considered a direct command from God. Clearly, the biblical intent was that the command completely to obliterate the Amalekites be taken literally. So, it is no coincidence that this passage about Amalek that is from Deuteronomy is also read on this Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat just before Purim, as well as in the usual weekly cycle of Torah readings. And that is why I keep mentioning that it was added this week. Purim, of course, is a holiday when we celebrate the Jewish people being saved from forces that wanted to destroy us. Our extra portion this week at Purim time is an important reminder to us. Those who wish our harm, as we all know too well, come in many forms. From Amalek to Haman to Hitler to Hamas. We should therefore never take our past or current freedom for granted. In our troubled times, this country and others, including, of course, Israel, are grappling with how best to deal effectively with such a fact. As Jews, our tradition instructs us in this regard. We do need to defend and cherish our freedom. But in doing so, should we demonize all members of other peoples because of what some members of certain groups have done? Absolutely not. Quite the opposite, actually. By remembering, by never forgetting our precarious position, hopefully we ourselves can always remain sensitive to all people, especially the weak and the stranger. We are told to annihilate Amalek in our portion, and this can take many forms. My hope is that we honor the spirit of the law rather than its literal meaning and initial intention. Let us work to wipe out what Amalek represents, not to destroy those who oppose us. And when we are left with no choice but to fight in self-defense, let us not feel pride nor pleasure in the results. For if we condemn or dehumanize an entire group, even in theory, we become no better than those who would deny our rights as Jews and as citizens of free countries in Israel and here in the United States. Zachor. On this Shabbat and at all times, we must truly remember. We must remember, never forget what we were, who we are, and the way we can become. Let us remain proud of our heritage, a heritage of justice and peace, and strive not only to continue it for ourselves, but also to share its message with others. The message that as Jews, we value life, not death. We cherish harmony, not discord. By so doing, we will be able to say with complete integrity that we truly have overcome Amalek. May we all be blessed with a peaceful future, beginning with a peaceful Shabbat. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Well, we know as adults that Purim and Shabbat are time not only for joy and celebration, but also a time for reflection. We have certainly been reflecting, but now I want to share joyous moments. So I invite anyone who has good news to share, to please feel free to share with us, and then I'll invite you to come up to the Ark to help open the Ark for Elena. We have good news this week. 39, right? Yeah. Mazel tov. Come on up. Yes. Ah.
And is one of them you, Marvin?
Belly dance or a drummer?
Perhaps both.
That's great. That is definitely good news. Yes.
Yeah, that's great news. Come on up.
Yes. It's hard to hear you. Come on up.
I have one, and Rebecca can sit. So I got a new talit this week, and Rebecca Lockenbach made me a beautiful kippah that matches it.
Isn't that beautiful?
So
that's lovely.
We're very lucky to have such a talented woman.
Absolutely, and it looks beautiful. Precious, yes. Something tells me you want to say something. Yeah, we'll hear a little bit more about that in our announcements. You want to come up? No. Just wanted to plug the cage room. Yes, absolutely. That's wonderful. Mazel tov. Yes, Linda. Welcome back. Sounds like you had a great time. Uh-huh. Yes. Which probably worse than the rain. Right? Any other news? Okay. Please rise on page 282 in the middle, and we'll join together in Elena as the Ark is open.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'tetz gedula liotzer breshit, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו כהמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Thank you all. Mazel tov. Please be seated. Page 289. The light of life is a finite flame, like the Shabbat candles. Life is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty, but soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our lives are full, but as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives, we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. We remember for Shloshim, those who have passed away recently, Stan Guanter, Roy Abarbanel, Joaquin Eugenio Regalado Salazar. We also think of those who have died in recent days in Israel and in Gaza. We also remember the yahrzeit, the anniversary of death of Joseph Sternberg, Matilda Ludwig, Marilyn K. Rubin, Dr. Irwin E. Gainan, Richard de Revere, Alvin Bernberg, Dorian J.T. Wright, Ruth Schonbrum, Joe Williams Sr., Irwin Gainon, Kenneth Shosed, Beatrice Emmer II. If anyone has other names, please feel free to mention as I look in your direction. And again, those watching on live stream, feel free to mention at this time as well. For the names we have read, the names we have mentioned, for those in our own hearts and minds, for those who have no one to say the words of Kaddish for them. We turn together to page 294, where there we find these words praising God for the gift of life and the memories we have of loved ones. It's our custom to stand together as a sacred congregation if you so choose, and if you choose to read these words together with us in support of those in mourning. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabba, ve'elma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, Ba'galav v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam u'amei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal. Shmei dekudusha b'richu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Tamiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabba min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, all Israel and all of humanity, we say together.
Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. And I'd like to invite Claudia Blackburn once again to represent the Temple Board as Vice President and share some greetings and announcements with us.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi. That was really a great sermon. It's always one of the stories that I puzzle over. And thank you, Stefanie and Angel, and all of our greeters out there. And to Lee, special thanks for making me feel like I can sing, because he harmonizes and sort of hides my voice, so it's great. So tomorrow morning we will have Shabbat services at 10 a.m. in the Gibbs Family Chapel. And we have lots going on. Tomorrow night, there will be a Purim celebration. Actually, so Purim celebrations begin tomorrow evening, March 23rd, with the Megillah reading, the spiel, and Party Like a Persian. Come in costume, of course. Game night is on Saturday, March 30th, from 5 to 8 p.m. Bring an international dairy dish to share. Shabbat Kavod has been moved to Friday, April the 5th, and we're hoping that all our volunteers can join us, so please mark your calendars. Sisterhood invites women to join them for their Miriam Seder dinner on April the 9th at Temple. Contact Carol Frank for reservations. And I just wanted to make a quick announcement to follow up on what Precious was saying. I'm not sure if everybody knows what the Capital Area Justice Ministry is, but we are part of it. It is a group of about 20 faith-based organizations that have joined together to work on justice issues. And the big event every year is the Nehemiah Action, which is scheduled for April the 16th at 6:30 at the Old West Enrichment Center on 2344 Lake Bradford Road. Please plan on attending. We usually have good representation. Last year, over 700 people showed up, and this year the goal is 1,000. So we need people power to make progress on gun violence reduction and affordable housing. Those are the issues we're working on right now. So if you have any questions, see Precious back there in the back, or me. It is just, we think it's really important for the Jewish community to demonstrate our values of social justice. So hope to see you there.
What time is the forum?
The Purim.
6:30.
Yes, 6:30. Okay, Debbie.
I also want to say Miriam Seder is from 6 to 8. You can announce the time from 6 to 8 p.m. Registration is not going to be accepted after April 1st, and there are going to not be walk-ins at the Seder because we have to prepare the food and pre-order it, so it'll be less than more pre-pay.
Yeah.
The cost is $36. You can pay at the gift shop. If you use the credit card, there's going to be a $2 fee. If you use a credit card, you can also send a check to Carol Frank, $36, and it would go to Temple Israel Sisterhood, and the credit card payment goes to Cindy Trader. Okay?
Anybody else have announcements?
No.
All right. Oh,
Just go along with Debbie. If you want to bring your daughters along, please do, and they're at $18.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Just a reminder to everyone, that we'd like announcements to be in by, let's say, Wednesday of the week, so we can keep them condensed and make sure that they are, that we are prioritizing. And I thank everyone for your input. Just to add for the Shabbat Kavod, the Shabbat to honor volunteers that was mentioned, that is not only for volunteers. That is also to thank them and to be inspired by them and hopefully gain new volunteers. So if you have volunteered, please come so we can thank and honor you. If you have not yet volunteered, please do come to thank the volunteers that we have, and again, to be inspired by all they've done. We are going to conclude our service with the singing of Utsu Etza, as I mentioned earlier, page 369. And I draw your attention to the meaning of the words here. Make your plans, they will be annulled. Scheme against us, it will be to no avail, for God is with us. We hope that we find peace, we find continued shelter and protection, and that all innocent people find the same. Adonai oz le'emo yiten, Adonai varechet amo v'shalom. God, we ask that you give us strength not through a physical might, but strength through spiritual power. May we learn to live together in peace, in harmony. May we be blessed with those who also want to do so. And may it help lead us to a community and a world of shalom, of wholeness and of peace. Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom. We will have Kiddush now and then Hamotzi. And then, of course, please join us for our Oneg, just a few minutes in the social hall. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratza banu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lemase bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. Shabbat shalom. Okay. Again, thank you to Stefanie and Angel for the beautiful